sommelier realmente é fundamental e importantíssimo onde existe vinho e bebida. Portanto, eu acho que o sommelier é fundamental no supermercado, é fundamental numa loja de vinhos, é fundamental num empório, é fundamental num restaurante, num bar. Eu penso que é das figuras mais importantes no mundo do vinho.
Tenho que conhecer os vinhos, tenho que conhecer as regiões, tenho que conhecer as características, de modo a que possa combinar, casar, fazer o que chamam os franceses le mariage, vinho e comida.
I think a good sommelier is somebody who managed to inspire people and managed to bring an extra layer of to an experience in a restaurant, and somebody who also can share the passion with people who they work with. And then if you have this good connection and feeling with people, you can inspire them. And I think it's this ability of being contagious with your passion.
The most important qualities for a good sommelier are actually three. You always want to learn more. Even though you already know a lot of things, you have to stay curious and want to learn more and new things. Second thing is you have to have a good memory capacity. But the most important thing is you have to always stay with your feet on the ground. Even when you are a superstar sommelier, you always have to be very humble and down to earth. Otherwise you will never become a really good sommelier.
I explain my job like a guide in a museum. If you go to see some artwork in a museum, if you are alone, you can understand something. But if you have a guide beside you that explain what the artist would like to transmit with the artwork, you can see a lot of other things, and your mind is absolutely more satisfied. I think this is our job. We have to explain wine like an artwork, and we need to have the capacity to lead the consumer to understand much more what is inside a glass of wine.
The most important thing for a sommelier is to make people sitting at the table happy. If people leave the restaurant happy, the sommelier has done a great job.
Porque o sommelier é a ponte entre o produtor, a cozinha e o consumidor. Eu considero o sommelier o poeta do vinho.
Nós, neste momento, não vamos comemorar os 50 anos da ASI, porque vamos comemorar os 50 anos do ato da constituição da ASI, da decisão de tomar a ASI. Isso, de facto, é muito importante e que nem sempre, de facto, é divulgado.
O primeiro encontro, em 1969, em Reims. Portugal contribui muito para a globalização e a diversidade e o alargamento da ASI, porque até ali estava muito limitada, que eram apenas 3 e com Portugal 4 países, porque havia uma necessidade legal de haver número mínimo de países participantes.
Well, ASI has been changing quite a lot, because when it was founded in 1969, there were only 4 countries. It was France, Portugal, Italy, and Belgium. And it's been founded in Champagne, in Reims, and 4 associations were created, this International Association of Sommeliers. They wanted the sommeliers all over the world to improve.
The one that had the idea to create this association was Jean Valenti, that was my boss. He was half French, half Italian. So he contacted some sommelier in France, that they contacted somebody else in Belgium and in Portugal. So one day they said, okay, we are going to France to found the association. I asked, can I come with you? No, you are too young, you can't come. I was 16 years old, and at the last moment he said, okay, you can come. Of course, I was so young I couldn't participate to the moment of the signature. They found the association, and then they named me as the mascot of the Sommellerie, because I was so young and so small.
L'ASI a été fondée au mois de juin 1969
L'idée, c'était de réunir les pays sur lesquels il y avait une sommellerie qui existait déjà. C'est en France que ça s'est passé, avec la Belgique, avec l'Italie, avec le Portugal, dans un premier temps. Et puis après, rapidement, d'autres pays sont venus enrichir, j'allais dire, l'équipe de l'Asie. L'idée, au départ, c'était vraiment de réunir les énergies pour faire en sorte que le métier de sommelier soit reconnu et protégé, déjà au niveau de l'Europe et ensuite au niveau du monde.
The final goal was just to improve the service of the wine in the restaurant, nothing else.
ASI is still 50 years later improving the formation of the sommeliers around the world.
There was not an organization for, nowadays it exists. If you want, you can have either the national education that can do it in some countries, or some private organizations like associations that they can do some trainings. At that time there was absolutely nothing. Even in France they didn't have the trainings or the school to become sommelier.
At that time in '69 you had no internet and there were really not that many books where you could learn something. So it was complicated for the first ones.
It is 1969. Don't let me
down! To think how it was difficult to communicate to everybody. Telephone was very expensive, not everybody had the telephone. Writing letter, often they used to say we didn't receive any letter. So every time it was a problem just for communication. Nowadays is more. Now you can do everything in 1 minute if you want.
I got to meet a French guy called Henri Piot, one of the founding members of ASI. And I used the opportunity to ask him, why did you found ASI? And basically he said, we wanted to promote a certain type of culture.
So every time was in a meeting was just talking about problems, but not how to do in the future, except the competition. That was the only point, yes, everybody really wanted to do.
They fixed the first championship, which was won by a French guy, Armand Melconian. And then almost every 3 years they could organize a competition. And because it's the best way, to motivate sommeliers is to organize exams or competitions.
One very good way of solving these issues of the past for ASI was to come up with the idea of hosting sommelier competitions.
E eu acho que concurso nada mais é do que educação, treinamento. E sommelier, ou escansão, precisa constantemente de aprender e de aprender. E naturalmente que as competições internacionais fazem parte dessa aprendizagem.
A competição é sempre muito salutar, muito importante, porque se não houver competição, não há empenho, não há objetivos. Por isso, eu penso que à procura do ótimo significa andar à procura de fazer o melhor.
A vida de profissional como escansão ou sommelier, naturalmente tem que abdicar de muitas outras situações particulares para se dedicar absolutamente, especialmente quando tem ambição ou o sonho de ser vencedor nacional ou internacional.
Fazer parte da ASI, de que somos fundadores, é muito importante para a troca, para o intercâmbio de conhecimentos.
Now every time we have a Best Sommelier of the World contest, we have dozens of people competing and thousands of people watching the finals around the world through live streaming. We now even have a movie that we made in the Best Sommelier of the World competition in Argentina in 2016. So this is just a small example of how technology and time have evolved, increasing the impact of ASI in the promotion of Sommellerie.
Toutes les activités de l'Asie permettent à tous les membres et tous les pays d'avoir un niveau de connaissance qui progresse comme progresse le niveau d'information. C'était déjà de permettre d'expliquer à travers le concours ce qu'était le métier. Il y a eu beaucoup de changements dans notre univers. Il y a le sommelier traditionnel dans les restaurants, mais il y a aussi les sommeliers conseils, il y a aussi les sommeliers qui font des médias, il y a aussi des sommeliers qui sur Internet, il y a une grande diversité d'expressions de notre métier.
50 years ago, it was quite simple to be a sommelier because you just needed to know some wines, of course, But it was mainly what I said with the vineyards. It was France, Italy, Spain, the biggest producer of wine, you know. And what you had to know when you were a sommelier at that time, 50 years ago or even 30 years ago, you had to know very well the wines, of course, and to to pair the wine with the right food also. But this also has terribly changed because I remember 30 years ago some sommeliers saying, oh, you know, with asparagus you can't drink any wine. Or with chocolate, wow, no wine at all. And things like that, you know. And now you have the sommeliers looking for the right wine for everything, and as for asparagus or eggs or chocolate or things like that. So he has to work also with the chef de cuisine. And then when a client asks for a specific wine, even if the sommelier thinks it's not a good choice with the food, he has to please the client, you know, because at the end of the day, you have to make your client happy. So it's not that easy all the time. So the sommelier needs also to be a good psychologist, you know, and quite diplomatic sometimes.
I remember when I started, we were a little bit, we keep a distance with the customer, because at that time we were in a position that we refused a lot of customer because we were full lunch and dinner every time. And today is different. Today we have to catch some customer. We have to be able to communicate with our customers and to make our customer loyal to our restaurant. So it's totally different. And we only have to suggest to our customer only high quality wine, something that they are not able to choose by themselves. Then we have to be able to talk about this wine. We have to be able to match the wine with the food, but above all, we have to be able to make the customer happy and to make the customer loyal, because we need the customer for our business. Today is absolutely more business oriented compared when I started.
You know, I'm in the wine business now since exactly 30 years. I started my career as a young sommelier in 1989, so it's quite a while. But things have been different in those days, in the 80s and the 70s. You know, the profession was very much focused on the classic countries of Europe, France, Germany, Switzerland, etc. And nowadays you find high qualified sommeliers all over the world. What has changed also is that nowadays all the sommeliers are very good connected to each other. We have a very good network, and this is because of the ASI, because the ASI have created a network, a global network of sommeliers, and it's so important to have that exchange with colleagues from all over the world. So the sommelier profession is not only something of the classic old world wine countries anymore. It's really a profession that you can find all over the world, and we have superb sommeliers all over the world now. And just look at countries such as China. 5 years ago they didn't know anything about sommellerie, and now they have really beautiful and very qualified sommeliers. So it's really developing dramatically.
For the young sommeliers today, they have a great advantage. In a lot of countries you have sommelier schools.
You have schools of hospitality where they can, when they can learn about wine, not only about the service in the restaurant and the cooking and all that, but also about wine.
In 1978 I won the world competition. I was 26 years old. I've been the first youngest person in the world, and I'm still the youngest. The main difference is that until the 80s, probably until the 90s, it was just I do it because it's my honor to do it. After the 90s, I could say after the 2000, more than the 90s, I've seen a huge change into the young sommelier, that they were going to compete because they wanted the title to become somebody. But I think this happened also in other professions, not only into the sommelier. And nowadays this gap is more and more wide because people, they prepare themselves a lot, they do a lot of trainings because they want to win. Because nowadays, this is the difference. If they become best sommelier in the world, it's a huge change for them. Not when I started, it was almost nothing, you know, just the satisfaction. I said, I won a competition, okay, that's all.
I think it's a nice challenge for young sommeliers, you know, because they meet all passionate guys from their own profession, from all over the world. You have a nice interaction between them, and they all prepare to become perhaps the next world champion. But it creates like a big sommelier community, like a big family, because I think in the past, I competed also many years ago, was not like this. Now they're, like, thanks to internet and everything, they're much more related, and they prepare each other, and it's fun, and they're happy for each other if they, some of them, of the friends, go into the semi-final, even in the final. And it's a very nice ambience in between the contestants. So we're very happy for this.
Gerard, he's an icon. He's a legend, you know.
Gerard, for me, it was maybe the more iconic sommelier we have.
He was the global standard that everyone wished to aspire to.
He was a very, very talented and gifted person, not only on the professional way, but also on the human base.
He was always looking forward to learn from everybody around him. So he was always looking at you in the eye and listening to you before he said anything.
He used to love to have some challenge in life. And when he could achieve some goal, it was not enough. He was always looking for something else to do and to achieve, you know.
A ASI é extraordinariamente importante nisto, porque se não fosse a ASI, naturalmente os senhores não estavam aqui, eu também de facto não estava aqui, portanto é isso. A ASI tem feito um grande trabalho na promoção da imagem, de facto, da profissão, de facto, e do vinho. E as competições da ASI não são simples, são complexas, obriga-nos a dar uma volta ao mundo e a estudar uma média de 70 ou 80 países. Não é fácil. Vários países do mundo, várias regiões do mundo, várias culturas, várias maneiras de fazer vinho. Portanto, se não fosse a ASI, a vida da Sommellerie de facto não era de facto a mesma coisa.
We started with 4 countries and 50 years later we have over 60 countries.
And now we have almost 60 countries members of ASI, you know. So we started with 4 in 50 years ago, and now we have 60 countries members of the International Association.
What they did at that time was a little European community at a very early stage. And if you look today, we are a world community, which is great because it shows that the passion of wine is shared all over the world. And the ASI is the ideal instrument to show the world, look, here are people passionate about wine, and they can make you perhaps a little bit happier with the right glass of wine when you ask them for it.
O futuro de ASI tenho para mim que vai ser muito bom, porque cada vez mais os profissionais estão mais empenhados, mais interessados, mais vocacionados para uma melhor aprendizagem sobre as qualidades, as características dos vinhos.
ASI is becoming more and more global. We're now working in things like, for instance, bringing back the US into ASI. We're having a meeting in 2020 in China. We're working now in helping establish the National Sommelier Association in India. We are becoming a global sommelier family.